We're going to break it down, how to help somebody build their strengths, supports, and resources. We're going to explain, briefly why this is important and what the research tells us about this and how best to go about it. So first off, I want you to think about two people, Jane and Joe. Let's describe. So they're both going through a difficult time in their life. They're struggling to function in important life areas, struggling work, socially, social events, connecting with people, maybe, so on, struggling in life areas. They're feeling their internal well-being is very low. They're struggling internally, and their close relationships are finding it difficult. Some mix of these things. They're just really going through this difficult period of time. And I'm not going to give a specific causality for it, because maybe it's caused by a serious mental health relapse. Maybe it's caused by somebody having a mental health episode for the first time. Maybe it's caused by an addiction. Maybe it's caused by a series of trauma, or a loss or bereavement, or some tragic event or something, or a connection of these things, or maybe it's caused by a variety of factors playing in. But they're going through this really, really difficult period, really struggling, right? And I'm going to describe two people, Jane and Joe. Okay, so Jane has a friend she can talk to, connects with twice a week, once on the phone, and once a week they offer a cup of coffee, and she feels she can confide in this person. Jane has a park nearby, which she likes going for a walk in the morning. Finds it helpful even on difficult days. She's connecting with a counsellor, and she has gone and done some research, found some books that she likes that help make sense of it all, and she stumbled across a tool that she can use to self-track her progress. That's Jane's picture during this difficult period. Now Joe, he doesn't really talk to anybody, keeps it to himself, just struggles, doesn't feel there's anybody he can confide in, doesn't have any park nearby that he can go for a walk for, or feel there's any community resources he can connect with, isn't connecting with any professional support, hasn't really got any insight, doesn't really understand what's going on. He's just struggling day by day trying to get through, hasn't really found connected to any research for it, and isn't tracking. He's not doing any of these things. So I just want you to think, who is going to do better? Who's likely to recover faster? Who's likely to potentially stay stuck in that difficult position for an extended period of time? And I think the answer is obvious. Joe is not going to do as well as Jane. Jane is going to do significantly better, quicker, and more likely to recover, and Joe more likely to get stuck and experience some real difficulties. Now, so let's give this a concept. It's helpful to use a concept to understand something like this. And the concept I like is called recovery capital. Basically, Jane has high recovery capital, things and supports she can connect with that are going to help her out. And Joe has very low recovery capital. And basically, what the research has shown over, huge amounts of money spent and decades of research looking at outcomes and what correlates with better outcomes, they've just discovered that people who have high recovery capital do significantly better, which makes sense, but this is what the research tells us. So this is what creates change. This is what determines whether somebody does better or does worse. It's high recovery capital. And that's what we want to try and help people to achieve and to get to. Now, but the research tells us something very interesting as well. There's a particular quality present in engagement with this recovery capital that makes all the difference. It is the engine of change. It really drives everything hugely. So let's go to look at two more people. This is going to be Brenda and Billy, right? Now, both of them have a friend that they can talk to that's reached out and said, give me a call anytime you need to, right? Both of them have a park nearby. Both of them go to see a counselor. Both of them have gone into a bookstore and looked at books and read and tried to, and both of them have a self-tracking tool. Okay, so technically they both have recovery capital. But there's a difference. One of them's going to do much better than the other, and I'll explain to you why. Let me talk about Brenda now. Brenda has a friend who has reached out to her and said, just let me know if you ever need to talk. I'm here for you. But she just doesn't feel comfortable. She just, for whatever reason, doesn't feel comfortable engaging with this friend much. And when she does, it's a very cursory conversation and doesn't really feel comfortable engaging. There's a park nearby. She does like walking in the park, but she doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel like a safe place for her to go. She does go, makes herself go 2 or 3 times a week, but really doesn't feel that safe when she's there or comfortable. She has a counsellor, but she goes because she knows she needs support, but doesn't really feel connected to the counsellor. The counsellor gives these worksheets to do, and she doesn't really see them as meaningful. She did go and look at books and try and do some research, but none of it really connected or made sense or kind of resonated with her. She does have a self-tracking tool that she uses, but she just feels it's not really connecting or engaging or meaningful or inspiring to her in any way. So that's Brenda. Now, Billy, he is a friend who he really appreciates that he reached out and has this friend. He talks to the friend on the phone twice a week and once a week to go for a coffee, and really feels he can confide in this friend and trust. There's a park near Billy, and actually the park is near a wooded area. He loves going for a walk there, feels refreshed, feels it's positive. Even on difficult days, it feels good to him. He has a counsellor, feels the counsellor understands and supports, and they've got this vibe, this connection that's good. Counsellor gives some worksheets and homework, and he finds them helpful and meaningful and good. He has gone into a bookstore and actually did look at quite a few books, but only 2 of them really connected. But those 2 were really helpful, and he goes through them and he learns different things and finds stuff in them. And he has a self-tracking tool. He says it's just kind of helpful thing to do that he feels is meaningful and useful, and so on. So the difference there is they both have recovery capital. Now, just to be, and I think you already know the answer of who's going to do significantly better, but I want to impart to you how big a difference this makes. Like, we're going to use some numbers, and they're kind of imaginary, so don't take this too seriously. I'm going to use these numbers to make a point. So let's say if your subjective experience, which is really what makes huge difference, if it's low, if you're not really engaging, it doesn't feel meaningful, doesn't really fight, doesn't feel like a good fit, doesn't feel like it's connecting, we'll give it a multiplier effect on the units of recovery capital. So both of them, we could say they both have 5 units of recovery capital, just to give it a term, just to use this. Now, the actual impact depends on their experience of it. So we're going to, because Brenda's experience is quite low, not very positive, we're going to multiply her 5 units by 0.5. No, not by 0.5, by 10%, 1/10, right? 1/10 is what the actual impact of effective recovery capital she experiences is 1/10 of the 5 units. And Billy, because he's having a positive engagement with all these, we're going to say that is 10 times better. So Brenda's effective recovery, even though they both have 5 units, objectively, if you ask both of them, they would say, yes, I got a friend. Yes, I like the park is good. Yes, I have a counsellor. Yes, I've looked at some books. And yes, they would answer yes to all of those. But the actual impact of that recovery capital, for Brenda, it's 5 units, 10% of that, it's 0.5. For Billy, it's 5 units multiplied, it's 50. So one person is experiencing 0.5 impactful recovery capital, and the other is 50. Even though it looks like the same on a piece of paper, because their subjective experiences is really what it needs to be there. The recovery capital also needs to be experienced as a good fit, engaging, meaningful, supportive, and so on. And that's where you try to get to. And this is the key. And again, this is what the research says. It just simply says people who connect with these supports and resources and find them experience them in a positive, meaningful way, just do far better, which makes sense, right? So now we know what really we're trying to get person to a place of high recovery, really effective high recovery capital. Yeah. Now, so let's break this down. Now that we know this, we know what we want to try and help our friend, our family member, our loved one do. How do we break that down? And let's just make it simple. Let's just say there's 3 areas that there's that person's their strengths, which is their internal resources, if you want to think their internal qualities that we can help them develop. There are the supports. These are the positive people in their life that they feel good about connecting with. And then basically the third piece I just call resources, which is just everything that doesn't fit into the first 2, really, just to do that. So what we want to try and do is help them figure out a way of building this, right? So they get to a place of high recovery capital. And, how do you do that for a specific person? Now, the thing, of course, we know now, we want them to have high recovery capital, and we want them to engage this recovery capital in a way that they feel good about, that's meaningful, engaging, and positive to them. That's the key. So where do you start off with? The cool enough thing is that you're there, you're a support. You can sit down, you can say, hey, I'm here for you, give me a call anytime. Let's meet for a cup of coffee. You can listen, you can let them talk, you can, share some ideas. You might talk about some things, routines they can do during the week, some classes that are available in the community, some resources they can engage with. You might help them process and discuss things they're engaging with. You might say, what, this is interesting. Let's go down to the bookshop get a coffee, get a bunch of books, and look through this stuff together and see what's interesting. Or they might do it and then tell you about it. And they're all, so this is like you are being a support to them, and you're saying, maybe you should check in with your GP. Did you know there's a counselling service over here? There's a local community group that does this. Or you know what? And the supports they connect with don't all have to be about recovery. Because there's a lovely yoga relaxation group. Let's go to do that. That could help too. And you're building this up. You're adding to it, right? That's the key. You're adding. Talking with them. Adding some supports, and you're being a support. How do you help them build their strengths? Well, I got a section at the end of this book about building skills, which you might introduce to them. You could introduce them to the concept of self-tracking. You can discuss things with them, and they gain insights. Hopefully a sense of belief that it's moving forward. Tap into their own quality. Sometimes I say, well, it's just a variety of things you can do. So that would be helping them step into their strengths and helping to build their supports, and then look at the resources. Are there self-tracking tools I can give them? Is there a book you could suggest they read? Is there, what other resources are available that they might not know about that you could encourage them to check out? Could you say, just check it out. Just give them a call, see what they're like, see if go to the counselor once, see if it's for you. Check it out, talk about it, and help them maybe say, maybe make a commitment to go 4 times, and then decide whether it's for you or not. To give it a chance, and helping them. So that's what you're trying to do. And as I say, there's a bunch of skills at the back of this book you could help them know about it. So that's it, and you just say. But you're thinking about it, okay, how can I help them build their strengths, supports, and resources in a way that they feel good about, in a way that's meaningful and inspiring and engaging and positive to them? And that's the question at the back of your mind, And it's interesting. This is not magically fixing anybody. It's not like, I'm going to do this and get them to change. I'm going to contribute. It's that approach of saying, okay, they have a little bit more recovery capital now than they had last week. They got a few more things going on now. And then next week they'll have a few more things going on as well. And hopefully they're measuring the progress, which is going to make a massive difference as well. And which we'll talk about in the next chapter. And you can help them do that. You can sit down and do it with them. You can say, okay, you've got such a score in your tracker now, and let's make a plan to work for next week. They're having a plan. Actually having a plan about how they're going to deal with it is actually, you'd be surprised. I work with a lot of people and they need to do the recovery and they don't really have a plan. So actually having a plan is great, because you can always, maybe the plan isn't working that well, but you can always improve it and reflect on it and make it a bit better next week. So that's a big step in recovery capital, developing a plan. So you'll discover once you start thinking like this, there's always these opportunities to build it where you can, in ways you can that work for them. And then when they get to a place of high recovery capital, they will heal. You'll see it. You'll see it on their tracker, on their chart. And that's it. And if again, if it's not really improving that quickly, you just help keep them safe, help them feel comforted, help them feel understood, help them believe that they will get there, and this is a part of their recovery capital as well. It's not like, oh, you didn't improve this week. That's not right. It's okay. It's okay. You tried out a few things, you learned a few things, we opened a few doors, we planted a few seeds. Okay, let's keep on going. And this is just this approach of building the recovery capital in a way that's meaningful to them and feels right to them and feels good to them. And I think it's important to say, sometimes it mightn't feel meaningful and safe and easy the very first time. Maybe they're going to see a counselor, they're very nervous and worried about it. You say, okay, stick with it. Let's review this. Let's give it 4 sessions and then review it. Or maybe they're going to a new group. I say, don't just go to a group once, and look around and see which one you think would be a good fit for you. There's lots of different options online and stuff like that, and local ones. And when you think, okay, this kind of sounds like it could be a good fit for me, give it a shot. Just make a commitment to go for 4 weeks. So you'll get something from it, and then it may be, more. So it's just encouraging them to do, and developing. There's so much, the recovery mindset or recovery work ethic. These can be wonderful strengths people can bring to their journey. So it's really, you discover that when you start thinking like this, and you can, consult with other people, friends. And when they understand that they're building, maybe they get to a place where they understand that they're building their strengths, supports, and resources in a way that's meaningful to them. Sometimes I explain that to people. You can help them do it together. Sometimes I say to people that this is really challenging, and it's very tough to do it by yourself. So the more you get a team of people, you get some supportive people around you, you're going to do much better. And so I've explained to them kind of this stuff in a meaningful way. I say, you know what? Let's connect with some resources and supports that are going to help you with this. That's the key to success, really. Many of the time, you can say that, and you can just therefore you're actually discussing with them ideas for doing this. So there you go. So that's how you help somebody build their recovery capital and get to that healing place. Now, I'd like to finish with one last sprinkling of research. We've touched on 2 points of research: that recovery capital, higher recovery capital creates change, and the engine that really drives it is their subjective experience of that. But the last little piece, which I just think there's lots of other research we could tap into as well, but I just particularly like this one. It's called the common factors that contribute to change. So they've looked at all these different approaches and different ways of doing it, and they've found what are actually making the difference. What are the factors that are present that correlate strongly? And they came up with 4 of them. Hope, expectancy, optimism about what's going to come on is a significant factor. And if we had to give it a percentage of its contribution to change, generally on average, we're talking 15%. But that's pretty cool. If somebody says, you talk with somebody and you go from a place of, I'm lost, I'm hopeless, nothing I can do to change. You know what? We'll work on this. We meet once a week, twice a week. We'll chat about it. Practice a bit of self-care for now. Just focus on getting through the day for now. But, we work, and they feel a bit more hopeful. You're adding a bit of magic, The next one then is relationships, positive, supportive, understanding relationships. When they feel there's somebody they can talk to, they can express their struggles with, and they're there to support them. And you can do that too, just by listening, just by saying it's okay, just what's going on, and just understanding, and just seeking to support them and giving them a place where they feel comfortable to talk what's going on. And that's about 30% of change. And then another is intervention. Intervention is about 15% of change. It just means structure. It just means there's some kind of structure to what's going on. For example, having a plan gives it a kind of a sense of, okay, here's what we're going to work on this week, and we'll see where we get. Measuring progress, having a kind of an approach, a way of looking at this, it gives it a bit of structure. It doesn't have to, it's not all about this structure, but just you're adding that little ingredient, you're sprinkling it in, it's about 15%. So just by saying, we're going to sit down once a week, track your progress, have a chat about it, make a plan, you've added another piece of magic into it there. And the last part is their strengths. Now, this is going to sound strange. The research, actually, when you look at meta-analytical research, everything gets a bit quantum. So what the research says really is that strengths are somewhere between 40% and 87% of what helps people recover, right? But we'll just go with 40 for now. So their strengths, their personal, and this is the broader sense of strengths now. It's the resources, their hobbies, the things they connect with, the things that are meaningful, their theory of change, how they think change happens, an idea they might have had, during the week I had this idea to try this, things that they come up with, is huge. And just being open to that and leaving it there and encouraging them to explore these things as well, So yeah, so that's just, you can sprinkle, I've added a little bit of hope. I've added a little bit of feel a bit more understood and supported. There's some new resources coming in there. We've got a bit more structured approach now with this because we're doing that. You're adding all these good ingredients for recovery, and you're doing it in a way that they feel good about, that they feel inspired, they feel motivated. I mean, not like mind-blowingly inspired. Okay, this is okay. Okay, we're tracking your progress each week. Yeah, I feel that's okay. It's a reasonable thing to do. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. They're okay with it. It's positive. They're getting something from it. That's a positive experience of it, So now you're going to help people build their strengths. And the formula is very simple. You're going to help them build their strengths and supports and resources in a way that's meaningful to them. And as they build, they will enter that healing place and they'll start getting better. And that's what you're doing. And you are very much an integrated part of that. And maybe other people could be too. And you're exploring this and you're thinking about it and you're exploring it with them. And maybe there's other people that you can explore it with too. And this is how healing happens. And when that person gets to a place to say, you know what, I have some tools to deal with my day. I've read some books that are really helpful. And is the key word. And I have a nice tool to track my progress. And I like sitting down, discussing that chart with you and coming up a plan with that. And, I've connected with a yoga class and a park that I like to walk in. And I've developed my daily routine, and I've started to prioritize recovery in my life, that I work on that every day. And. See, this magical word "and" is the key. And you put all these things in place, and I feel good about them, and they're positive, and these are helpful. Um, then they're in that healing space. So now you know what the form, you know how to do it. And you just figure, and it's okay if you don't quite get it right sometimes. You just kind of say, oh, this isn't the approach. I do it with clients sometimes. I kind of hit a bump and I say, oh, okay, that didn't go down too well, and you just reset and get back and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come across in that way. Is that well? You can check in with people. How do you feel about this, and how do you feel about the support? And what you can ask them, how do you feel about the support you're connecting with? Is a great question to ask people, and check in with them, and all right, and just advise them. Say, oh, well, it'd be good to try and find ones you feel good about. Just educating them a little bit, not breaking it down to research, but just telling them, let's try and connect you with some supports and resources you feel good about. That'll really help. Or you could say, let's, having a team of people that are helping you do this, because it's a really difficult time. The more support you're connecting with, and sometimes it takes a while to develop those supports, is something you could say as well. So now you know that, and and I say, get support for yourself. You're not in this alone. Talk with other people about what you might do and how you might help them, um, and just remember, you're contributing, you're helping out in a way that's meaningful. Sometimes you don't know how to magically get them out of there, but you do know you can connect with them. You do know you can say, just give me a call anytime you need. You do know you can, help them out and do a bit of research and make a few suggestions. You do know you can maybe educate them a little bit about, you're going to do better if you're engaging with more strengths and resources. And you do know you can ask them, how do you feel about these strengths and the support you're connecting with? You do know that we have some skill sheets at the end of this book that you could go through with them, that if they're really struggling with cravings, well, then that's a skill sheet you work with on them, because that's going to be most meaningful to them. So you do know, when you're helping them learn these skills, you want to, if they experience it as meaningful and engaging, you're on track. You do know, when you're helping them measure their progress, that if they don't experience that as meaningful and useful, you say, well, let's take a step back. Maybe there's another way to go about this. Maybe there's another tool we can look at, another way of doing this. Give them some options. So this is how you do it, and the more you do it, it is a skill. The more you do this, you reflect on it, you learn. You know, you do get better at helping people, because now you know what you're trying to do. And sometimes you don't quite get there, or sometimes you really say, that really went well. You're learning, you're developing it, you're coming up with a plan of how you might help somebody do this, and your commitment to them. And it could be just every now and again, just a quick text, how you doing today? Or could you say, oh, how did you get on when you did this, or how was that book? Are you finding any interesting ideas, and exploring them with them, or just checking in, or just, text, or let them know you're thinking about them, all these things. And maybe, finding other people that can reach out to them and connect to them as well. And this is the journey, and it's wonderful.